at the time we're recording, Argentina 1985 has been nominated for Best International Film for the Academy. It's nominated for Best Film Not in English, BAFTA. It's got a Goya nomination. It's nominated for Best Foreign Film for Hollywood Film Critics Association, and winner of the International Film for Golden Globes. We're going to talk about a film that I don't think people knew existed a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm talking about it. It's Argentina 1985.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. You can follow the show on Twitter and on Instagram. Guess what? We do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals and content that you can exclusively watch. We just put on some new stuff for there for the Patreon select members. Both Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that webpage for critics reviews as well as ours. And today we're going to talk about another film that got nominated for the Oscars for international film. It's Argentina 1985.
Yeah, so set during the 1985 trial of the juntas, the film follows Julio Strasser and his ragtag legal team as they take on the former military dictatorship for their crimes, a task most lawyers ignored based on the dangerous and deadly risks involved.
This is directed by Santiago Mentier. He's other films like White Elephant and The Summit, both starring the same person that stars in this movie, Ricardo Darin. He's been in those three movies as well. Seems that they do a lot of movies together. Yeah. I'm not really familiar with any of those movies.
I've not seen any of those movies at all. I know Darin was in Wild Tales, and as well as he was in the original The Secret in Their Eyes. Okay. I've not seen the original. I've seen the remake, which was not that great. So this makes me want to go and revisit that original. But.
And it's interesting because I don't recognize. I'm just not familiar with a lot of stuff that comes from Argentina.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. There's so much stuff that we get here in America, so we're just not familiar with a lot of those movies. But interesting to watch The Summit. It seems like it's almost exactly like this movie.
Okay.
It's a political thriller of all these political leaders coming to the summit.
Oh, okay.
For a meeting.
Interesting.
The presidents of Chile and Argentina and stuff like that. So it's very interesting. It's a political play, and here we have another political movie. So I don't think you get this movie without him doing The Summit prior to this.
Yeah. It surprised me purely because like this is like butter on the popcorn for me. I love legal thrillers.
I know he does.
I grew up watching The Practice and Boston Legal, so like man, if you give me a great legal thriller,
eventually we're gonna have to watch Presumed Innocent.
Okay.
Yeah, with Harrison Ford. Cinematography with Javier Julia. This is interesting. It did nothing accolades for cinematography here.
We've been seeing the Academy more and more putting films that are in the foreign language bucket into other areas or documentary. I mean, even last year we had Flea, which was a documentary animated foreign language film. So it got in all three of those. We've been seeing that branching out. I'm surprised this one didn't branch more.
So this is when we're talking about expansion of categories. I would like to see the Academy have an expansion of category of best stunt. Stuntman needs to be recognized.
The problem with that is just being able to get that information out to voters, you know?
And I would like to see some technical awards for foreign films, especially like cinematography and editing for foreign films. Best cinematography for foreign films. Because I think this will definitely, if he did that, we'll get some.
See, I think that's happening more and more frequently, though. We are seeing foreign films getting the regular one. I would hate to delineate because it almost feels like you're giving second-class trophy then, you know?
And that's
I
the
just
problem
think
with
that now that they're expanding, they are adding more foreign, more international members to the actual cast of voters. I think that is helping overall. But I agree with you, like, we're getting to a place now where a film like A Parasite can win a lot of awards being an international film. And I think a lot of what this film is doing works really well.
Okay. So it's based on a true story. It's based on a true story. So 90% of it is kind of loosely interpretation, right? It's not, it gives kind of a documentary style to it.
Yeah.
But you understand this is very loose based on what really transpired of Argentina getting away from a dictatorship and had an election in 1983 and then having a court to kind of get justice for what the dictatorship did in the early 80s and late 70s. And you have a lead character, and and we'll talk about it with my review. But the interesting concept is when you do a thriller like this, you usually concentrate on the bad guys. You get that interrogation scene of talking to the bad guys and the heroic. You don't get any of this. This is almost like the understudy elements of bringing a case together. The boring paperwork.
Yes, agreed.
Well, if we have to do this, then the dangers of, okay, we do this, but we have to do this and this and this, make sure we're safe. Their family's safe. So it's always this little bit of anxiety, but it's always the little details that you forget about a court case that you have to do. Okay, can I look at the file of this? Here it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to read all of it. Yeah.
So I didn't know a lot of the meat of this story.
Okay.
I had a general idea of kind of what had taken place in '83. I had a general idea about the trial, but it wasn't much where I didn't know the major players involved. I couldn't have told you about the specifics of it. So going into this film, I didn't realize at first that's what the story was going to be about. That was interesting. And then following it up with being able to dive into it and not really miss many beats when it came to the cultural signs of the film. Because sometimes you watch a film in another language and you get that kind of, there's something that's translating but it's not hitting me. I felt this film was very accomplished in figuring that portion out.
Okay.
But you're right. I think this goes back to, if you want the documentary, watch the documentary. If you want 100% truth, that's what you get. This is going to be a fictionalized account of what happened to the best of their ability, I'm assuming.
Because they're playing on what is the emotions, the aesthetic of what's happening here.
Yeah.
The anxiety of, I got this, now I got it, right? This prosecutor that I wasn't really made, I was appointed to this, now I got to do this, right?
I was appointed, my family's getting death threats, I don't trust my daughter's boyfriend, and no one else will help me.
Right. I actually have to do my job, which I think is part of the movie, right?
I think that's kind of the running joke of it, is that he didn't expect the caseload to be this when he took on the role. So
right. And if you did, a couple episodes back, we critiqued Apartment Zero. That was actually filmed in Argentina in 1988, and this is after the dictatorship was gone from 1985 and stuff, and they would expand, worldwide and allow art and filmmaking and process. So Britain came and made that movie and gave a bunch of grants to the government. So you don't get Apartment Zero without Argentina, doing this court case in 1985.
That was a strange group of jumps you did, but I respect it. That was a good connection.
Which is because you understand, all right, how come this country didn't produce a lot of content? And that's forgot. They're in the dictatorship.
Yeah, and so it's almost like we've come full circle now to we're making art about the very thing that would have stopped the art from being made.
Yeah. An interesting side note, you look up Kiss of the Spider Woman with William Hurt and Raul Julia. It is about, they don't really tell you it's Argentina, but it's Raul Julia is a political prisoner in the system of the dictatorship, and then he's met with William Hurt, who's in jail just because he's gay. And so if you look to it, we should critique it eventually, Kiss of the Spider Woman. Yeah.
This was Argentina's a submission for Best International Feature Film. For those who don't know, countries have to select one film to
Only
go
one.
in. And then from there it gets shortlisted down to, I think, 15, and from there we get our 5, and then we get our 1. So it's really tough, because you can have the second best film in Argentina, and you're not going to get an Academy Award nomination for
nothing.
it,
Probably probably not going to hear from it.
Yeah, no, that's the thing too, is this movie will get more eyes on it getting the nomination. To be honest, the only reason I watched it before it was nominated at all was because Amazon, thank you Amazon, sent me a screener for this film. I wasn't even all that excited to watch it because it was a 2.5 hour long, courtroom film that I'd heard nothing about.
It's a lot of talkie-talkie.
Yeah, so the surprising thing for me was putting it in on a Sunday morning, expecting to get through some of it with breakfast, and my wife and I were just glued to the screen the whole time. So I do think this film is going to get
especially for you guys
eyes
your age, because you're not very familiar with what transpired in Argentina in the 80s.
Yeah, again, brick skeleton of it I knew.
Yeah.
It's just the bits and pieces inside. I haven't read any books on it. But what's fascinating about films like this, I know that this is a fictionalized account of the history. Again, as true as they probably can get it, but still, as fictionalized version. Now it makes me want to go read more about it. It makes me want to find some of those nonfiction books.
And, your son goes to get milk and he's never returned, and you kind of
and I think that's what made it a more engrossing experience for me, is again knowing that those bare bones elements, but then being able to unwrap the mystery with the characters involved. So
And what's interesting is I don't know if they hired a gaffer, because the lighting of this is always so super dark and so richly dark.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it takes place at night, even outside. Yeah.
True.
There's
But
not a really sunny atmosphere. for
what's
this.
fascinating is when you see it during the end credits of the film, they show the actual pictures of the people, and
Very close.
I don't think you could have gotten it any closer unless you took a time machine, went
Yeah.
back to 85 and grabbed those actors, because the actors are like they embody those roles so perfectly, and the environment. There was the one scene when he was doing the wringing his nose at the guys. The lighting in that and the color in that photograph was so close to what we were seeing unfold that it does feel like a documentary at times.
Right. And so that's why I was like, did they hire a gaffer? Because it just does feel almost very like
Sometimes
you've
you
seen
gotta
it
say
as
cash man.
they do what we did in the 70s. It's like those action movies like French Connection. You film it almost like you've seen it as it happens.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. And so I don't know. It's a heavy load this year for international films. I was surprised for the Golden Globe. I really was, because you have a lot of. It won the Golden Globe. I had a lot of content for Golden Globe.
Yeah, and as somebody who believes the Golden Globes are a sham and ridiculous and none of it matters anymore, I will say this. I was hate watching the Golden Globes with a couple drinks in my hand. I did almost spill my drink jumping up and down.
I know. I did it when
When
they
it
announced
won.
it. This one, I was like, what? Because you got like EO, the donkey.
Yep.
You got All Quiet, where you got Decision to Leave, and then this one wins.
The only thing that had this movie I've even heard about in the conversation come awards season was its nomination for the Golden Globe, and then its nomination for Academy Award. I have heard, like, I follow a lot of the political kind of machinations of that. I watch a lot of For Your Consideration content. And I've never heard this film come up in any of those conversations.
Yeah, I know.
So that's the surprising thing. Because, EO is like a darling of the Academy, apparently. And you get Decision to Leave. Everyone was talking about that for potentially
and
a
All
Best
Quiet.
Picture.
See, they seem
and
to
All
love,
Quiet.
They love All Quiet on the Western Front.
I'm forgetting that one too. Yeah. So
so-
it just surprised the hell out of me that this little engine that could keeps on cooking.
I'll be very surprised if it gets international film. Now, that's not to credit for what we're talking about for a review, but I'll be very surprised since it got a Golden Globe if it gets another one for Best Foreign Film.
That's fair.
Yeah. So up next is our review. My God, you know what he's going to say. What did you think of the movie?
Man, if I could have a top 11 of the year, I
This was
swear
in it?
this was almost there. And I'm talking like even till the last moments of finalizing my top 10 list, which you can read on goatfilmreviews.com. It was this film and The Whale that were kind of like hitting that number 10 spot and then bopping each other back off. And I'm sad to say it didn't make my top 10, but damn, if you've got Amazon Prime, go watch this movie. And note for Amazon, you don't have to set the movie to English. Like, you could set it to its native language. Because I'll tell you, the dub for this movie is awful.
Right.
It's terrible.
So that was my. Thank God you started right away. It subtracts from it when you English dub it, and then the subtitles don't match the English dubbing.
That was worse, too, because I couldn't get them to turn. Like, my app kept freezing up on me, and so I was stuck for, like, the first 20 minutes. And again, I've watched the movie 2 or 3 times, so I've seen it in its regular version, but my last time watching it, I could not get either one of them to switch to the right channel I wanted it to. So, note to future, just set the film in its native language. If someone doesn't want to have that, they want to have the dub. If you want to dub, you do you, but I really think the film is at its best in its native language with subtitles.
And that was a big take for me when we critique High Tension.
Yeah.
And I will mistake the big ending.
Oh,
but
yeah.
my God, if you're going to English dub it, it just looks so cartoonish.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. You have a great content with this, and you think people are not going to watch it unless they speak English.
Yeah.
My God. Right.
Those people probably weren't going to watch it to begin with, and that's the thing, you know. The only dub I think that has actually worked this year has been All Quiet on the Western Front, because I didn't realize until 20 minutes into the movie that it was a dub. I just thought they'd assumed
Well,
they
there's not
filmed
a lot
it in
of
English.
there's not-
Yeah, it's very quiet about that. All Quiet, I guess, but that was the only film for me where like half an hour in I was like, wait, is this a dub? Like I had to like zoom in on the lips on the characters. But yeah, this film, terrible dub, wonderful sub.
So I'm not as shining onto this. I think it's a solid film. I
Yeah.
really do. But I haven't yet to see EO. I've yet to see Return to Soul. A lot of other
Quiet Girl, Close. I've missed
haven't
a
even
couple
seen
of
like
those.
After Sun or something like that. A lot
Yeah.
of other movies. But definitely it is in the top 20. But we just, it's one of those. I'm surprised a lot of people are talking about it now. Where I'm sure in December, what the heck is this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. But now I want to go to the Globe. Now people are talking about it.
Yeah.
I like what I really enjoy about this movie, and I kind of talked about it in the making of it. it's a court drama, but it's not the big arch of the court case. It's the underlining underwork of what you have to do to get your court case moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do the paperwork, the talking, getting all the dynamics, and make that interesting rather than you have this big archetype. Bring the bad guy in, everybody talks about it. Yeah.
It's very rare that you get a courtroom drama, that is about the beforehand. That is about the research and the study.
100% about the beforehand. Yeah.
Because most of the time, the courtroom drama where those movies win, it's the iconic speeches that people give. It's the iconic interchanges between the person on the podium and the person who's interviewing. The cross-referencing that's where all the drama comes from. There's only one epic speech in this film. It's great. It's wonderful near the end of the film. But there's only one of those speeches made by our prosecutor. The rest of it is all, victims giving their statements. Even the guys who are on trial, they say maybe 3 words combined before before the end of the film. It's all about the research part of it. But that's where I think it's fascinating, is that ragtag team of teenagers that they get to help them.
And you get the perspective. It was a great choice of when you have the one female who's going to recount how she got kidnapped and raped, and the camera almost like you've seen it how she would. And it's very intimidating. Yeah. You got a row of guys sitting there in their suits and everything, and they're a little above you, and you got to spit out this account. And then you get her point of view shot when she turns back and the courtroom's all full, and all eyes are on you again. It's almost like she's revisiting exactly what transpired, but she's trying to talk about it.
Everyone now in the entire country is hearing it.
And that's very difficult to convey, that this almost like how she has to go in this courtroom to do this.
Yeah, there's that scene with the
I really like that scene.
Who's relating the giving birth in the car and having her baby basically fall onto the floor of the vehicle because they won't stop and help her. And it's such a jarring moment, and what I really loved about that moment isn't so much the description and the strength of that performance, but it's the moment where the one of the judges on display says, "Well, just kind of stick to the truth, okay? Don't as opposed to feelings." And she goes, "This is the truth. These are the facts." And it's that thing of you can say that I'm getting over the top with my description, but that's what it was. And I think that was such a powerful thing. Great performances across the whole thing, but I think particularly those 2 leads.
Right, and I think Ricardo's Darren's, who plays his wife, fantastic.
Oh yeah, she's wonderful too.
The kids are wonderful. Like movies, if you get the kids really good, kids are dynamic in this.
Yeah. What I really appreciate was the chemistry, and when it needs to be, lack thereof, between Julio Strasser, Ricardo Darin, and Peter Lanzani, who plays Moreno Ocampo, which is his
the 2
assistant.
prosecutors don't really get
those
along.
Guys. What's so great is that they have this chemistry-based anti-chemistry, where it's they don't get along, but they do it so well.
And they understand we're not going to get along. But we have to do this.
But those little moments where they get along, just beautiful. I like after Ocampo comes off the TV interview, because Strasser doesn't want to do it, and he says, "Oh, they put this makeup on you to help the shine," and he goes, "It didn't work. You totally shined up there." And it was just this moment of it could be perceived as a cheesy line,
it
but
could
man,
have.
it
It's
works
written down
so well.
But you're right that in the screenplay, it's the director's we have to, when he wrote the screenplay, but he understands that has to be.
That has to work.
And
maybe that's trust in his lead actor. I'm sure he knew he was going to cast Darin again, but it works very well in that. Those interactions are so strong. And I didn't even mention the wife, but you're right. The wife, Sylvia Alejandra Fletcher, is great as well.
Yeah, it's a great casting. Like I said, it's a solid movie for me. It's probably top 20.
Okay.
And we just haven't seen a lot of content, but it's surprising how effective it works by how they go with the movie.
Yeah,
because you don't get the big speech at the end. You don't get. It's supposed to be courtroom, but it's the courtroom. But it's just the underlying tension. The guys are sitting and talking and interviewing the prosecuting, but they're looking like who's there. So it's almost like it's a play.
Yeah, it's the stuff that's not related to the actual courtroom that seems to fly the most.
Yes,
I was thinking about that scene where the guy leaves his briefcase, and Ocampo is looking at this briefcase now in the center.
After you got a bomb threat.
Yeah, well, after they got the threat, and he looks at it, and he's waiting, and the guy realizes, "Oh, I forgot my briefcase," and goes to get it. It's such a tense moment, knowing where it's going to go with that.
After they got a bomb threat, and it was a fraud, but then you see this unoccupied suitcase.
Yep. Yeah, and the juxtaposition, or I guess the antithesis kind of what's being done is that when they introduce all of our defendants and they each come up and say, I do not recognize the legitimacy of this court. They each come and do that, versus when that final speech is happening and they cut to Ocampo looking at one of the gentlemen reading his Bible. And it's not so much that he's reading the Bible and ignoring the speech out of like protest,
Yes.
but seeing the Bible shake a little bit. He's nervous because he knows they could do this.
And that encapsulates the entire thing of what they're going for this movie.
Yeah.
You can get the documentary and all the court transpires, but it's the tension of which authentically is going on. I'm reading my Bible, but there he's like,
yeah, he's nervous, and I think that's those little moments are the ones that elevate the film and made it so much more incredible of a rewatch now. I've seen the movie twice. I probably will watch it again. I really, really dug this one. And right now it's my favorite international feature film of the year. Granted, I haven't seen Close, EO, The Quiet.
And you already know mine.
Films. Yeah,
you knows mine. Yeah. So, all right. Well, have you seen Argentina 1985? My God, get on the bandwagon.
Yeah, go check it out. It's streaming on Amazon Prime. It is an Amazon original. Go there, click off of the English, and then watch
we recommend
the
it, right? Yeah, because it takes away a little bit of it.
Yeah, and definitely don't do both, because you're right. That was infuriating with the English and the subtitles and the English and the dub. It's just it drove me crazy. But if you get your settings right, I think you're gonna love this movie.
I do too.
Come on back and let us know your thoughts once you've seen it. And while you're down there telling us your thoughts, make sure you like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but man, we do love it when you do. Thanks for joining the community and watching the episode today. Make sure to check out that Patreon link, and you can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts, and she's starting up next month.
There we go. Join us then.